This panel will be about giving you some of the findings of the first meeting of our Government Advisory Board, which has been created to help the board of Gaia-X to interface with the governmental representative. What I think is important is to remember what was said yesterday. You remember Pierre Grandlier showing how a federation of services will be specified. You remember Andreas Weill explaining how federated services are beginning to be developed through call of tender. Anne-Sophie Taillandy explained that soon the funding for France has been available and also part of the federated services will be developed in France. And what is important is coordinating this effort. In the same way, we have heard yesterday the discussion about the data space project. Gaia-X, obviously, you heard yesterday that initially it was primarily German companies belonging to Gaia-X. Stellantis has joined now. Valeo has joined now. In the same way, in the health sector, you heard Dominique Pardo explaining that Netherlands is very much involved in the health sector, as well as Finland. If we go now to the Industry 4.0, you heard about this project in Germany and Austria, which is UPro-Gigant, which is really willing to put together all this capability. Now, that was, I would say, the intention of the Governmental Advisory Board, which has been suddenly made extremely important because the COVID crisis has made necessary the creation of this Recovery and Resilience Fund. As you remember, it is a 750 billion euro fund, out of which it has been requested by the European Union that 20% be dedicated to digital transformation. It's a big amount of money, and obviously this has been associated with a requirement by the European Commission, which is called the Digital Decade. And the Digital Decade is, for instance, giving a 10-year plan, which in this 10-year plan is saying that we should have, by 2030, 75% of the companies in Europe having adopted cloud and having adopted artificial intelligence capability. In the same way, it says that by that time we should have 10,000 nodes for edge cloud. Now, what is important now is to realize, and it is really a new deal, that the money will be in the capability in each country, and each country has delivered their plan before the summer, and this plan has been put together in a way which is now supported by a new mechanism which is called Digital Compass by the European Commission. And this new mechanism is saying something extremely important. They wish that multi-country project be set up. A multi-country project is a project with at least 3 countries, and we believe this is a mechanism we absolutely need to use for the data space project, we need to use for developing further services. So, without further ado, I would like now to hand over to first Carme Artigas and to ask each of you to tell us, after a quick personal introduction, what is the importance of Gaia-X in your country in terms of hub, in terms of requirement, and also what are the priorities for you in terms of data spaces. I have to give you the apologies of André Artigas, who has been taken by a fine, not expected obligation today and who cannot be with us. So, Carme, it is really your turn, please, to present yourself and to say what Spain expects from Gaia-X.
Good morning. Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to participate in this second Gaia-X summit, and especially in this session with some of my European counterparts. This event is an exceptional opportunity to bring the community together and fast forward Gaia-X at European and national level. I'm glad to see that almost all the UE member states have created hubs that will advance our data sovereignty, and Spain has joined this movement also with the creation of a specific hub of Gaia-X that is inclusive, value-oriented, and sustainable in time. We need a digital sovereignty that allows us to set the rules of the digital economy and society aligned with our European values and rules. Data sovereignty is the key catalyst of a truly digital sovereignty. Individuals and companies should be able to decide to whom they make available the data they produce and under what conditions, and if they want to store it on European soil. The Future Data Act should serve as a framework to be operationalized by our Gaia-X communities across the EU. Data spaces require a legal and policy framework that ensures trust in data sharing and a technical infrastructure that operates the sharing in security and in privacy. In this last part, it is where Gaia-X needs more to make an impact. The Spanish hub is open to work in new data spaces, from renewable energies to Industry 4.0, ensuring that they are interoperable with the European ones, secure and privacy-oriented. It is crucial for Spain to focus on two specific data spaces, the data space for tourism and the data space for health. Spain is one of the top destinations in the world. Thus, we need to ensure that our tourism industries reap all the benefits from data. As for the health data space, we have high quality health data and highly decentralized data sharing processes. We are leading the joint action on a European health data space together with Finnish and French colleagues who have a more centralized systems for health data management. So we think Spain can bring an added value here. The Spanish hub for Gaia-X is oriented towards three aspects. One, an organized data sharing ecosystems in Spain that also involves SMBs from the different productive sectors. The discussion and dynamics of this ecosystem target the creation of specific use cases that solve business problems with data and AI. It will be a standalone association, sustainable over time, with the ambition to be as representative and inclusive as possible, including entities from the third sector and public administrations. In fact, there is a clear support from the Spanish community with more than 96% out of 303 replies of respondents to a public tender, public consultation that we have launched and that have had the active participation in the Spanish Gaia-X hub. Excuse me. Let me close with 4 clear ideas to bring home. One, we need a human-centric perspective of the digital transformation, and in particular for deploying data spaces at the national and European level. Gaia-X should not be a forum where entities want to access data of others, but do not allow access to their own. We need reciprocity and a clear purpose for sharing. SMBs, which are 98% of our productive sectors, cannot be left behind, and they need to have a voice. And we need interoperability among us. A data space cannot be a one country or one entity initiative. We can only break silos if we leave aside our personal interests and think of the collective ones. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carme. I would like now to hand over to you, Matthieu, if you want.
Thank you, Hubert. And hello, everyone. I'm really pleased to be here, although virtually, with this summit. I'm actually looking forward to an occasion before the end of this project where we can all gather with a little less constraints in terms of sanitary conditions. But we are gathered, and I think that's the first item I want to stress from our point of view in the ministry in France, is that we collectively have managed to bring Europeans together into a project that is absolutely key for our digital sovereignty. And it's, I think, a first step that needs to be outlined. And we should never forget that at least bringing together 500 members, 15 national hubs. This is already a significant achievement. Of course, it's an achievement that comes with a number of responsibilities. It's not enough to congratulate ourselves about it. And the responsibilities are now, and it's been said just before this panel, about execution. And that's our first hope that we can actually deliver the promise of Gaia-X, which was which in France we've been involved from the start with our German colleagues. It's now a European initiative. We think it's very important that it is perceived as European and not only Franco-German or anything. So we're happy to hand over a significant part of the leadership to others in Europe. But this is extremely important that we underline the progress. As you know, in France, we're very committed to building European cloud and federated services. We are supporting, you mentioned it, Hubert, the Gaia-X federated services. We do have a national industrial plan to support European cloud capacities. We are planning to mobilize 420 million euros to support the French cloud industry. It's within a European framework. And of course, the most important and innovative projects will be inside an IPCEI on cloud. And we're working with other colleagues around the table here to build this European project. And in parallel, we think there are two other fronts. One that I have to mention is the regulatory and legal fronts. It's important to say that Gaia-X needs to remain aligned with those European initiatives. There was a mention earlier about the ENISA frameworks. This is extremely important that the labeling framework from Gaia-X remains aligned with this initiative. And our focus is for Gaia-X to provide visibility, transparency to the ecosystem, to users on issues about protection against extraterritorial regulations, issues about sovereignty, and of course, where technologies come from. This is very much in line with the EU agenda now. It should be in the next few months as well. I can't disclose everything there, but we think this is an important aspect. On the other pillar, of course, there are the European data spaces. And I was mentioning our national plan. More than 150 million euros are going to be invested in the creation of data spaces. We are, of course, this is national funds, but we are definitely conceiving this progress as something that has to be fit into a European framework. We want them to be European data spaces. I want to congratulate all the members of the French Gaia-X hub who are very much involved. There are 12 very active working groups on those data spaces. A few I can mention because they're particularly active and I think relate a little bit about what we think has the most potential for European leadership is energy, it's finance, it's the Green Deal as well. We are very committed about a sustainable digital environment and airline mobility as well. And of course, you may be aware that we have set up existing data spaces already in other areas in France, including in agriculture. So that's a snapshot of where our strengths are today. There is a need within Gaia-X for stakeholders to discuss about those data spaces and be very clear, to be able to demonstrate to governments that they're acting in a coordinated manner and that we're not replicating or duplicating initiatives in similar sectors in different parts of Europe. As Spain was mentioning about tourism, about health, we need coordination there. And I think that's a role for our government advisory board as well. So to conclude, I would say that there are major expectations from all of us, from companies, from citizens, from governments as well. and failure is not going to be an option. We need to keep growing. Gaia-X needs to keep this growth pace, needs to execute, and needs to keep the European focus that is at the core of its creation. And that's certainly going to be a topic of discussion for us as well in the future. Thank you very much, Hubert.
Thank you, Matthieu. I would like now to hand over to you, Stefan.
Thank you very, very much, dear panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first emphasize that as Director General for Innovation and Digitization Policy here in the German Federal Ministry of Economy and responsible for Gaia-X, I am completely convinced of the project. Gaia-X is the basis for our future data-driven development, and that's why it's a great pleasure and honor for me to take part in the second Gaia-X summit today. As a governmental official, I naturally ask myself how policy makers can further support Gaia-X. And in view of the hundreds of companies and organizations that have joined the Gaia-X association and one of the national hubs, one might wonder, is there still a role for policy makers? And if so, how can we support Gaia-X? To anticipate, from my point of view, it's essential that we continue to support this project as we, the German government, have initiated together with the French colleagues and supported Gaia-X from the beginning by providing political support, which was important, especially at the start, but also by funding it with substantial financial means, a current total of about 500 million euros. First of all, we believe that a vibrant data ecosystem can only emerge if there is an active and engaged community, as Matthieu mentioned before. There are actors who actually share and use data, who develop data-driven business models and services, and who bring data spaces to life. The national Gaia-X hubs are a tool to bundle and structure these activities of the community. The German government therefore funds the operation of these national hubs across with public funding, ensures that our neutral intermediary across all sectors can drive the coordination. About 550 organizations are gathered in this hub at the moment, ranging from SMEs over scientific, academic, and administrative institutions up to large companies, spreading over 10 different sectors, which are all pillars of the German economy. Secondly, and in financial terms, I think more important, the German government puts direct grants into technological projects. Most important to mention is the Gaia-X funding competition for innovative and practical applications and data spaces in the Gaia-X digital ecosystem, which was announced in March this year. Around 190 million euro are available for this competition. In a very close competition with many excellent submissions, 16 flagship projects were chosen. These projects are aiming at a very exciting business sectors, from cloud-assisted diffusing of munitions in oceans to the auto repair shop of the future, to sovereign cloud applications for the public sector. Furthermore, additional funds will be used to establish one of the first Gaia-X lighthouse project in the automotive industry, and Hubert Tardieu mentioned it, the Gaia-X automotive network. It serves as a very good example for Gaia-X Federation, with a well-functioning cooperation between companies along the value chain, and it shows clearly how much potential for innovation lies in such a cooperation. In addition to that, the federal government is providing significant financial support for the development of the toolboxes to implement core technical key components of Gaia-X, the Federation services, as well as sovereign cloud stack. And last but not least, let's not forget the objective for Gaia-X is to build up data space ecosystems, but in the same sense, it is also necessary to set up infrastructure ecosystems on provider level, So Gaia-X will generate new business models for European cloud providers. And that is why there is financial support for the next generation cloud infrastructure and services through an IPCI. This will deliver the necessary building blocks to reach scalability for Gaia-X, and it is full synchronized. To fund this project, we have made available additional 750 million euros from the German Recovery and Resilience Plan, and the aggregated European investment is indeed much higher. And finally, if the Gaia-X offer is convincing, governments will of course also be customers of Gaia-X compliant services. We put funds in all these projects because the funding gives impetus to generate further demand for Gaia-X based data-driven applications and data rooms, both for the economy and for public administration in Germany and worldwide. So in conclusion, the diffusion of a vibrant European data ecosystem is of great importance to all of us, and the policymakers play an important role to make it a success. And if, Hubert, I may send two wishes in the direction of the Gaia-X ASBL. First, I think we need results that show the impact of Gaia-X. The tasks are complex, but I strongly believe we are on a good path. It's crucial that the first Gaia-X federations and sets of compliance services come out very soon. And secondly, we need more transparency and communication. Gaia-X needs to communicate with the relevant communities and the public about what they are doing. This is crucial to generate trust in this project, and we have constantly show that we make progress, and I think this summit is a very, very good opportunity to show this progress. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Stefan, for your nice words, and we will take very carefully your recommendation. I would like now to hand over to Jos, our last speaker, before we answer a question. Jos, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Hubert, and good morning to you all, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to participate in this second Gaia-X Summit. My name is Jos de Groot, and I work at the Dutch Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Policy as Director for a Digital Economy. I believe that data holds the promise to radically transform our economy and society. We are experiencing it every day in the COVID crisis. More and more digital tools enable teleworking, homeschooling, and disease monitoring, and of course, doing business digitally. At the same time, businesses in many sectors do not benefit optimally from the potential of data because data is kept in silos due to all kinds of barriers. Technical, organizational, and barriers in trust. What happens to my data? What is needed is a trusted digital infrastructure based on European values to unlock the potential of data and improve the position of enterprises to the well-being of its citizens. Successful data sharing requires trust, and it requires users' control of the data that is processed and stored. Our effort in the Netherlands will be to facilitate all businesses to benefit more from data by using Gaia-X in the Gaia-X initiative. And with all, I mean both large companies, SMEs, and startups. We will also stimulate the public sector to make use of it, because all will profit from the initiative. So what is the status in the Netherlands, and what are the next steps? Well, and on the 1st of July this year, we launched our Gaia-X Hub with a website and a kick-off event at TNO, the Netherlands Organization for Applied Scientific Research. Next year, we will further intensify all kinds of hubs activities. First, we are working on more awareness and publicity for the initiative by organizing and contributing to many events and publications. The hub has started with strong commitment from existing relevant public-private initiatives like the Dutch AI Coalition, the Data Sharing Coalition, the Online Trust Coalition, and the Cloud Infrastructure Coalition. These are all public-private partnerships. We are currently extending the ecosystem by adding both coalitions and individual companies, but also scientists from several Dutch universities. With this ecosystem, we are now defining the Gaia-X innovation agenda for 2022 and beyond. As many of you might know, the Netherlands is already very active on the topic of data and has many data sharing initiatives in almost all sectors of our economy, covering already thousands of businesses. We think we should build upon that know-how and experience to fuel our hub from bottom up by convincing companies and public organizations to participate and intensify participation after initial commitment. Our hub has been organizing meetings with more than 35 companies, universities and public organizations already, like Philips, KLM, the Dutch police, and with 10 coalitions which together represent more than 1,000 large and small businesses. Some of these initiatives are already fully part of our hub, like the Smart Connected Supplier Network, which is our first lighthouse use case in the Netherlands, and will be interesting to upscale on an European level. A collaboration with, for example, Gaia-X is already under investigation. Other use cases are currently explored, like the chemical industry, together with Germany, the public sector, among others with the Ministry of Defense, and health, with several companies, hospitals, knowledge institutes, and health insurance providers. And I would specifically like to mention Health-X, with involvement of Philips and TNO, as a promising use case. But we are investigating many more initiatives at the moment, and those initiatives would definitely benefit from Gaia-X. Data spaces of which we have high expectations are energy, agriculture, education and research, mobility, construction and financial services. However, in these domains, still a lot of work has to be done to convince them to participate and actively contribute. As we support many initiatives in these sectors, I see ample possibilities for that. I also expect initiatives like the IPCI cloud infrastructure services will be stimulus for these sectors to become more active in Gaia-X. And the Netherlands will invest 70 million euros in projects concerning the IPCI cloud. Tangible results from Gaia-X in the months to come obviously are a prerequisite to successfully extend the ecosystem. These will take some time, but I'm sure we will succeed in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jos. Very important statement about the direction, and we heard yesterday the ASML-driven project, which is really very convincing. Okay, now, Vassilia, do we have questions on Slido that you can share with us? Okay. What do the advisory board think of role of controversial company like Palantir in Gaia-X? Do you think Palantir holds European value? So who would like to answer that question? Matthieu or Stefan?
I can start if you want, Hubert. I think, so the first thing is Gaia-X is a private sector driven initiative. And we as government, we are here to support. We are here to take care of articulation with policies, but membership into Gaia-X, fortunately or unfortunately, that's not for us to decide. What's certain is we want to make sure that the outcomes from the working groups, that the governance of Gaia-X ensures alignment with European values. And so I'm handing over the question to the Gaia-X management about membership, but can assure everyone in the room that this question about keeping European focus, staying aligned with European values, cannot be hijacked by anyone. And we're not naive about it.
Thank you, Matthieu. Stefan, any comment on your side?
Yes, I think it's mostly important in this context that Gaia-X set up its rules, and this is a concept of Gaia-X. And all companies who fulfill these requirements can take part in the system of Gaia-X. But at the end, it's a decision of Gaia-X and of the rules of Gaia-X to decide if companies can participate or not, and if they participate, in which way they can participate. These are discussions that you have within the ASBL, and I think these discussions are very important, because at the end, Gaia-X is a European project, but we need a global data infrastructure. So we need to work together also with companies from other parts of the world, and to find the right balance is indeed not so easy, but I think there are good ways to find such solutions.
Yes, thank you. Can we go back to the other question? But in between, let me simply say that yesterday we have announced that the DG Competition has been sending us what is called a letter of comfort after they have reviewed our article of association, and they have confirmed that we are fully respecting all competition rules, which is very important because, as you know, any company which is legally operating in Europe cannot be excluded on the basis of its nationality. So we have 3 criteria, which were reminded again this morning during the press conference, which have been checked in each and every of the new applicants. So next question is, do you think countries outside Europe should build and operate a digital infrastructure similar to Gaia-X? What is the reason you think so? So you made an allusion, Stefan, about the Korean hub. Could you please develop a little bit, because I guess it will be answering the question.
Yes, thank you very much, Hubert. Indeed, we have different cloud systems worldwide, and this is clear, because all the companies and the other sectors need cloud infrastructure for the data-driven future. And therefore, it is indeed possible that we have different systems worldwide. The challenge is that we find solutions that data, for example, from Gaia-X, can also transfer to other systems in other parts of the world. And with a hub in Korea, we just try to find solutions for this, to work together for our companies, because our companies are acting globally. Therefore, they need solutions to transfer their data, but it's mostly important that they transfer their data in a trustworthiness manner, that it is reliable, that it is secure, and that the preconditions of Gaia-X are fulfilled also when we transfer the data in other parts of the world.
Thank you, Stefan. I would like simply to mention that in the Hanover Fair, we have demonstrated with NTT, a Japanese project showing data collected in Switzerland, Germany, and Japan to show what is a CO2 emission of a given product. This is exactly to illustrate your point. I understand we have a question in the room.
Yes, thank you. One of the most important passages that are ongoing is the migration of public administration to the cloud in this moment in Europe. And it's going to be very influential in terms of technologies which are going to be adopted, and also in terms of investments. And we don't see a clear European strategy at this level on the part of the governments, and rather we see different projects which seem mainly preoccupied about accommodating now the constraints due to the Cloud Act and the situation which is very much dominated by the hyperscalers from USA, no? So I would like to know if there is a conversation among the governments about this situation and how to...
Okay, just before I hand over to Stefan and to Matthieu, you need to know that there is a coordinated initiative between Italy, France, and Germany about the way American or international technology could be used if they are operated by European companies. But maybe, Matthieu and Stefan, I will leave you on the SECNUM policy, which has been announced by the French government, and I guess also supported by the German government. Matthieu?
Thank you, Hubert. Just to make sure things are clear, I think the question, the person who asked the question is right that there are different national policies right now in terms of supporting the migration of administrations, public services to the cloud. And this is really a big focus of our national policy right now, with extremely high stakes in terms of quality of service for citizens and companies, in terms of cost reductions, but also in terms of transforming the way those services are delivered. And there are security considerations, and so we have national policies there which have an impact on the market, and new initiatives have been announced from providers, French providers, non-French providers, to address this. And this is a good thing, and we are having a conversation with a number of other member states about it. It's not yet a European initiative, it's not a part of the program right now, but there are conversations. We're trying to stay as aligned as possible, and we have a lot in common with many of the countries. And the Gaia-X Government Advisory Board it's not on the agenda, but it's obviously a network that's very useful for that conversation to happen as well.
Stefan, any comment on that?
Yes, I think it's very important in the future that public services and public data are indeed transferred into the Gaia-X ecosystem. It is therefore very important, as I mentioned before, that we have more concrete services offered by Gaia-X. We are a little bit in the development phase. So if Gaia-X is more operational, I think that also the governmental data will transfer into Gaia-X cloud systems. And at the moment, we have a multi-cloud strategy. We need the existing infrastructures that we have. But I think the future is indeed to go more and more to the Gaia-X if it is operational and if we have the concrete services. This is indeed the precondition. And I know that the AESBL is working very hard on it.
Thank you. So I guess we are coming to the end. I would like simply to say to the one who has asked the question, what do you think the most important benefit of Gaia-X for industry and the public in each country? So this is a task of the Government Advisory Board, which will take place in France, invited by Matthieu in April, to provide you with a precise matrix, what it is Germany wants to drive, what it is France wants to drive, what it is Italy wants to drive. So wait until April to get that in a firm way committed by all the countries. Thank you all for that panel, and thank you for Stefan and Matthieu and Carme and Jos. Thank you.